Thank you very much, everyone who have joined so far. So here we are with this webinar, how to plan your career progression and transition. And I'm so excited to be here and see all these wonderful people joining in to learn and grow with us. So why do we have, why this webinar, or what do we intend to achieve at the end of the session? Although we all have big plans and ideas and dreams, but unfortunately at times we fail to follow through, right? So, and I can tell you from my experience that most of the time it's not something big. That's stopping us from achieving our goals. It can be as simple as setting aside a time with the focus mindset and really putting down your ideas on a piece of paper and starting with something like writing down your big goals and breaking it down into small steps. Because what happens when you achieve each and every small milestone, it keeps you motivated in pursuit of your goal. So as we start, I also helping people join in. Okay, so we and then we all spend most of our lives working in one way or another for a corporate, or running our own business, or looking for a career progression, or even altogether transit into a new career. And at some times we don't know where we are heading. So all it takes is a thoughtful planning, step-by-step process that can take us and help us to achieve our goals, right? So that's the whole idea behind today's webinar that we have to help you understand, or at least, instigate that thought process of how career planning is done step by step. And that's why we have a wonderful, guest speaker with us, Sharon Good. She was my instructor when I did my career coaching course with New York University. And, I have lots of respect for her knowledge and wisdom, because she did not only help me to help people in career coaching, but she also guided me how I can plan my own career, right? So that was the advantage that we got all who were there on that course. So we have today, Sharon, before we get into the real session, we want to get the best value of our time, So if I may, can I ask you, how focused are you right now? How focused are you right now on a scale of 1 to 10? So you can type in your answers in the chat box, and let's see, to bring ourselves to this moment, right? And learn from each other. So how focused are you really? If you can, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can type your answers in a chat box. So we have a 7 from Suhani. Anybody else? And Nikhil is 8 at 8, and Patrick is at 5. Let's see if we can increase that over and Kathy is at 9. That's wonderful, Kathy. And another way of getting the best value for our times together, is to participate, be an active participant, ask questions. You can type your question in a chat box, and I'm sure Sharon will take it from there, and or just raise your hand, and you can unmute yourself and ask questions directly. So we want to make this as interactive as possible for best of our learning experience. Now, before we get into the real session, let me share quickly with you our wonderful speaker. So Sharon Good is BCC, ACC, CLC. She's a president of Good Life Coaching Incorporated and a certified life career retirement and creativity coach. She is an adjunct instructor at New York University. Along with her classes at NYU, she trains coaches for the Life Purpose Institute and the Creativity Coaching Association, and has taught personal and development, professional development classes for 92nd Street Y, New York. With her extensive creative background in publishing and theater, photography, and advertising, she coaches artists to achieve their creative and professional goals and helps individuals from all walks of life create fulfilling lives, unique career paths, and enriching retirements. Through her publishing company, Good Life Press, she is the author of several books, including Creative Marketing Tools for Coaches, The Tortoise Workbook, Strategies for Getting Ahead at Your Own Pace, and Powerful Choices, Powerful Life. Sharon, I'm so thankful for you for being here and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks, Abdul. I'm very happy to be here this morning. It is morning for me. I realize for some of you it is evening, but here in New York it is morning.
Yeah. So some of us here, early evening or late evening, and I'm sure there are lots of people joining us from different parts of the world. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us where you are joining us from and who you are, that would be wonderful. So we connect all together as a team. So Sharon, while we still having people joining in, I wanted to ask you, you say powerful choices, powerful life, and you wrote a book about that. How do the choices translate into the life we live, right? So that would be a good insight to start with.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thinking just life and career. There are a lot of things that we don't have control of. We're born into a certain set of circumstances, but choices is how we make, control the direction of our lives. A lot of people have what I call a default career. They just kind of fall into something and they go with whatever happens, but that doesn't always take you where you want to be. So by making choices, you can redirect your life and your career to where you want it to go for the most part. So I feel that choice is a very powerful tool that we have.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Sharon, and the choices we make translate into the life we live. Sharon, so if getting directly into the topic that everybody has joined in to listen to, what is really a career planning? And why do people need guidance and sometimes guidance in planning their careers?
The planning, yeah, I mean, obviously it's making choices about where you want to go with your career. It's just that career has become so complicated. There was a time when you didn't have a whole lot of choice. You did. Okay. Maybe you did what your parents did or what they wanted for you. You followed in the family tradition. Or you may have had limitations. Certainly women 50 years ago had certain limitations about what they could do. So, making choices is important. And because we have so many choices now, it can be confusing. And, working with a coach who's trained to help you make choices and figure out how you can do what you want to do and what's going to make you happy, is a very powerful thing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of career coaches available now who can help you with that.
Thank you, Sharon. And then when you get into career coaching and planning your career, how important is identification of your purpose and values and fulfillment in your career planning?
Well, I feel the people who are on this call, I assume, are people who have some choice. There are people in the world who just have to do whatever they can do to make a living, and they don't have a lot of choice about it. But we do have choice now, and there's a big thing about having a sense of purpose in what you do. We spend a lot of years and a lot of hours within those years doing what we do, and it could be pretty miserable. Actually, somebody posted in the chat about post-traumatic work disorder, and I could see that. People can be very unhappy in what they do. You spend a lot of time in it, and you want to enjoy what you're doing, and if you do. There's a saying, do what you love and love what you do, and you'll never work another day in your life. So if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're going to be looking forward to it, and it's going to be a wonderful part of your life rather than something you have to do and then, a few hours in your week that you can actually enjoy. So I feel that, having a sense of purpose, we talk a lot about passion also. And for some people, the word passion is overdoing it a little. I've had people say, well, I don't feel passionate about anything. So passion is great for some people, but for other people, it's too strong a word. So for me, it's just, what can you do that you look forward to doing every day? So having a sense of purpose and meaning about your work. And if it's appropriate for you, having some sense of passion about what you do is great as well.
Okay. Yeah. So as we just a kind reminder to everyone that as you feel that you need to ask a question on any of the topics that we are discussing, please feel free to type into the chat box, and I'm sure Sharon will take it. Sharon, we also know, how can we envision our career path, right? So if I need to see where I'm going or what I really need to do, how can we envision that?
That's a great question. And as you know from the course I teach at NYU, we actually go through a process of putting the pieces together. I know for a lot of people, the whole picture doesn't come at once. So, what I always say is that you can figure out what you want to do, take it piece by piece. So if you know that you want to do something in the arts, say, or you know that you want to do something that helps people or something in the medical field, that's a good starting point. And, just start making notes about what you want to do, just piece by piece, and then let the picture come together bit by bit. Abdul, would you bring up the slide on the Holland Codes?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a man named John Holland who is a very well-known career coach, and he developed what he called Holland Codes, and it's kind of 6 major areas that you can look at. And for some people, that's a good starting place, just to say, do I want to be working with people, or do I want to do something creative? Yeah, so this is it. So this is the code. So realistic is doing something physical or mechanical, or working with animals. Investigative is doing some kind of research or problem solving. Artistic is, being something in the creative world, using your imagination. Social is working with people. Enterprising is working in business, having your own business, and a lot of people have that. I'm hearing a little echo. That entrepreneurial spirit, and some people, the conventional is working with data or numbers or following instructions. So for some people, just kind of figuring out which of those areas works best for you. The process I work with, we don't work with assessments quite as much, but there are some assessments. There's one called the self-directed search that uses the Holland Codes. Actually, I'll put a couple of resources in the chat. The Holland Codes and the self-directed search, where you can figure out like what are your main areas. Like the self-directed search will give you your top 3 areas. So if you're in ASI, it means that you're artistic, social, and investigative. Or ASE, you might be somebody who has a creative business working with people. So there are different ways you can put it together to start getting some clues. Yeah, let's go to slide 2, please. Yeah, so There we go. Yeah. The next one. Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is a process that I work with. I have to give credit to my mentor, Fern Gorin of the Life Purpose Institute. So she taught me this process, and I use a variation on it in the class at NYU, which we'll talk about that at the end of the session. But doing a kind of a self-exploration where you look at who am I? What is it that I want? Because everyone is different. And like looking at those different puzzle pieces that you can put together. What we mean by elements and possibilities is as we're working with this self-exploration process, we create two lists. Elements are all those puzzle pieces of what you want to do, what you want in your career. And then we also come up with a list of career possibilities. And the different puzzle pieces that we look at in order to look at this, what are your purpose and your values? Like we were saying, you want to have some sense of purpose around your work, that you feel that what you're doing is meaningful and that you look forward to doing it, that you're making a contribution, or some people talk about being of service. So we want to have a sense of purpose around your work. We also look at your values. People have different values about what they want to do, and you want to know that if you're coming into work every day, that you're doing something that matches your values. A lot of times people go into a job that goes against their values, and it's very uncomfortable. And I know I talk in the NYU class about sometimes with people, it can actually make them sick if they're doing something that they hate or that goes against their values. So I like to start by getting people just like dreaming, because we tend to kind of be very practical. And if an idea comes up that doesn't seem practical to us, we eliminate it right away. But I like to just kind of include everything that might be possible first, rather than ruling out anything that doesn't seem practical. Because I found that there are ways to achieve what you want if you're connected with again, I'm going to use that word passion. If you're connected with the passion and the value of what you're doing, there's always a way to make that work and find a path that works for you, that's also practical for you. So we start with kind of dreaming and visioning what we might enjoy. And then we get into the more practical things, like what are your skills? It is important. Like one of the examples I give is like, I love, drawing and playing with graphics, but I'm not a talented artist. So for me, it's a lot of fun to play with it. I could probably not have a career as a graphic artist because I can't draw. So you want to see, what skills appeal to you and also that you have some capability at. Then we're gathering this material, what you love and what your values are, what your skills are. Then we want to look at what fields are of interest to you. So that's one thing I've found. I used to be an actress, and I did a lot of temp work, what we call survival jobs. And I began to notice that if I was working in a field that was fun for me, a creative field like advertising or publishing, I really enjoyed what I was doing. But if I was in a law firm or a manufacturing company doing the exact same thing, I didn't enjoy it. So finding a way to apply your values and your purpose and your skills in a field that you enjoy is really important. The work preferences are things like, do I want to sit at a desk all day? Do I want to be out in the field? Do I want to travel a lot? Do I want routine work or a lot of variety? Just the different things that you prefer. So notice we're getting more concrete as we go along. The practical needs are, how much money do I need to support myself and my family? It's how much can I invest in education? Am I willing to relocate? Do I have any physical limitations about what I do? So we gather all of that information. We call those, again, those elements. And at the same time, we're generating some possibilities that might be of interest to us. Then we start to narrow down and see which of those do we want to look at further. And this is a step that a lot of people leave out, doing the research. They look at particular career ideas and they say, oh, that looks like it'll be fun. Or, you know what, my friends are doing that, or I think that would make my parents happy. and they go into something. And the thing is also nowadays, it's, at least in the US, it's very expensive to go to a university. So making a wrong choice, and there we have choices again, can be very expensive. So you want to do your research up front. Look at what will this career be like? Go and talk to people, do informational interviews. If you can, job shadow, see what kind of courses you'll need to take to achieve that. What kind of lifestyle will that give you? So by doing the research, you can then narrow down what is a really good choice for you. And then you do your plan of action. I love that little graphic there of the target hitting the bullseye there. Yes, and then once you know what you can do, then you can plan your education, what you need financially to do that, and move ahead into that, and then ultimately moving into the career that you love. So that's the typical career exploration that we do. Now, we also talk about, Abdul hasn't brought this up yet, but for some people, once they get on a career trajectory, they enjoy what they're doing, but you can also look at developing your career. And some of these steps are actually useful for that as well. So as you're developing your career, a lot of times we fall into a career path, and if we're lucky, it works out for us. Sometimes it doesn't, and then you can go through this career exploration process and redirect your career. But even if you enjoy what you're doing, it never hurts at some point to kind of look at your sense of purpose and values and your skill set. One thing that happens nowadays, you have to kind of develop your own skill set as you're moving ahead. And things move very quickly, particularly in the technology world. Things move very quickly. So you have to make sure that your skills are up to date. Somebody told me one time that if you're going to take a technology class, make sure you're going to use it within the year, because if you take it and you're not going to use it for a couple of years, it's going to be out of date by the time you're ready to use it. So keeping up your skills is really important these days, as well as developing new skills. And that's another thing, is when you know where you're going, then you can be developing your skills along the way, and prepare yourself for your next career move, so that you don't find yourself suddenly kind of a dinosaur in your career and not ready to move ahead. So that's a long synopsis of the career planning process.
Okay, Sharon, because I remember when we did the course with you, and the time we spent on identification of elements and possibility, that was the starting point, right? So, and that formed basis for everything that comes afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what is the right way of, if someone wants to identify their elements and what are the possibilities, how would they go about doing that?
Well, of course, one way is to work with somebody who's trained in this process and have a coach take you through this process. And I like the idea of doing that because you have somebody who's a sounding board who can brainstorm ideas with you. There's a book that's been around for a long time called What Color is Your Parachute? That goes through a lot of these, and you can take yourself through that process. And for a lot of people that works, but for some people, it just kind of leaves them stuck. One of the values of working with a coach is that a coach can sometimes see possibility for you that you can't see for yourself. So that, as you're working through these things, again, we have a tendency to censor ourselves and say, oh, but I can't really do that, or I don't know how to do that. And that comes up a lot, I find, particularly with people who are more mid-career. They say, oh, I would love to do that, but I don't know how. Well, of course you don't know how. You haven't been trained yet. So you can retrain at any stage of your career. And in fact, at NYU, in the School for Professional Studies, we have a lot of people of all ages taking certification courses and professional development courses, so they can move into something new or enhance what they're doing. So you can be retraining at any point. I also teach life coaching for the Life Purpose Institute. I have had students 80 years old in my class. who still want to continue developing themselves and being active and bringing, doing something meaningful in their lives. I'm also trained as a retirement coach, and I find that with all the other aspects of retirement, one of the big things that comes up is, what do I want to do with my life? We have very long lives. My mother just passed last year. She was 98. So I expect to have a nice long life and have plenty of time to do the things that I want to do. So, the idea of sitting and watching Netflix for 12 hours a day is not very appealing. So, we want to find things that we can do at any age of life so that we stay engaged.
Now, that's a very, very interesting point you made, Sharon. As when we last spoke, I remember you said, so that brings me to the question, the difference, is there a difference between, career planning for somebody who's a fresh graduate or just starting their careers or very early stage of their careers, and then transition into various stages of their lives? And even for somebody who's retiring, I know lots of people still seek help in order to, at the time of retirement, how they want to spend their time from after their full-time jobs, right? So there is different phases of career planning at each stage of life, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, starting from 15 or 16 years old, when you're starting to think, where do I want to go to college? Again, because it's so expensive to go to college, you want to kind of get on a good track right away. The tricky thing with career planning is people are so busy. I mean, in these last couple of years, people have transitioned to working at home. They're homeschooling their kids, dealing with health issues. And even before that, a lot of times people are just so busy with their jobs that they don't have time to think about anything else. So sometimes they neglect the career planning and development phase. But sometimes you can be blindsided, especially if you're in an industry that's being phased out, which happens sometimes. One example that I like to give is nobody does film developing anymore, very rarely. We all have digital cameras now or use our phones. So film developing is a career that is not very viable anymore. So that can happen. Things are changing so quickly now. So that's one of the tricky things is a lot of times people don't have time there. By the time they finish work and dealing with their family, they're exhausted. So, so that can be a challenge. But being able to think ahead, even like a year ahead, just, thinking, is my career safe right now? Are there new skills that I need to develop to keep myself viable? So even just thinking a year or two ahead, if not 5 or 10. The other thing that happens sometimes is people get into a career path, but they have a dream, something that they want to do that maybe hasn't been viable up front. So I also like to think in terms of long-term planning. So if there's something that you would love to do, to start thinking about that and maybe developing it on the side. I live in a very large building, so we, have a person who handles our mail just for our building. And in the beginning, we had this lovely man named Mr. Brown. And apparently in the postal system, you can retire with a pension at 55 after certain years of service. So he was getting ready to retire and he was only 55. So I asked him what he was going to do. And he said, I always wanted to be a carpenter. So his retirement career was being a carpenter. So, he had the financial freedom at that point to do what he really wanted to do and loved to do. So that's the thing, is just to have some sense of where you're going so that you don't get blindsided. And I know certainly in the last 10 or 20 years, layoffs have happened, and not because of anything that you did, but just because the company was downsizing or there were mergers and they were letting people go. So just being aware of what's going on so that you don't get blindsided and suddenly find yourself without a job, and you haven't been, keeping your network warm or your skills up to date. So it's really valuable to be planning ahead. even a little bit, so that you don't get blindsided and find yourself out of a job with nothing to fall back on. So that's sort of a synopsis of that. I'm just looking in the chat to see if there are any questions. Okay, yeah, Petra is asking if there step 3 about asking for life purpose. Are there any tips for getting closer to that? And the reason I'm asking is because I've worked with this so much, is it's almost a little obvious to me. So I'm trying to think about how to articulate that. Yeah, I mean, I work with some different handouts that help people get in touch with that, but kind of thinking of what is it do you feel is your purpose in life? Is it to help people? Is it to develop your creative work? Is there a particular cause that you're passionate about? It's interesting because sometimes people go through an experience themselves and it's difficult for them, and their purpose is then helping other people go through that experience in an easier way. So I've seen people who've gone through a health challenge, and all of a sudden it upends their life and they have to redo their life. So they want to help people who've gone through health challenges. I've seen people who've gone through very messy divorces who then want to help people to go through amicable divorces and then rebuild their life after divorce or after a health issue. So just kind of seeing what do you enjoy doing? And again, the thing is, a lot of times, say, I love scuba diving. And they say, well, how do I make a career out of that? Well, you can. There are people who make a career out of teaching scuba diving or selling scuba diving equipment. And it's interesting. I was teaching a class at the 92nd Street Y about all of this. And somebody in the group said they love working with pets. And somebody said, oh, you can't make a living with pets. Well, how much money do you spend on your pet? There is, grooming and training and boarding and pet sitting. There are, so many different ways to make money with pets. So that's what I say. Just think about when you think about what you love to do. Just be open to that. There is a possibility to make a living doing that in some way. Yeah, so that's what I would say is just kind of tap into what do you love doing, and then be open to how you might make a living doing that. Okay, I'm just seeing if there are any other questions there. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Petra. Okay, yeah, so we're open to other questions. If anybody has them, just either raise your hand or pop them in the chat.
Sharon, I do recall, if I may share, about the purpose and values. We did spend a bit of time identifying values when we were working with you last time, on set of values and what resonates with each person. That gives lots of connection within what would you like to do, what you like doing, and what your values are, and what gives meaning to your life. I had few instances where I was coaching my practice clients, and each one of them, when I asked them what makes you happy and what gives you joy, and 100% of them said helping others. And then I asked them, how can you, within your career or your career that you are trying to pursue, how can you help people in doing that? And lots of people find it's rewarding to get into careers, or because that's their purpose when they like to help people.
Yeah. So that's what I always say. Helping people is very broad. So the question is, who do you want to help? First of all, Do you want to work with children? Do you want to work with people who with a particular challenge? Do you want to work with older people? And how do you want to help them? Do you want to teach them art? Do you want to teach them how to have a good career? Do you want to teach them a particular skill? So that's really helpful. So I'd love to maybe have everyone who's here like put into the chat like what's an important value for you or values. So why don't you go ahead and do that? Just put some values that are important to you into the chat. Okay. And I know there's a couple of people here who actually take Nick and Kathy have worked with me before. So, you know, if you feel like speaking up with your experience, please feel free to do so. Okay. Service, making people's lives better. So, okay. So, Marcello, we could say, how would you want to make people's lives better? You're welcome to respond to that if you want. Solving problems, like what kind of problems, Marco? Yeah. Nick, if you want to go take down the slide now so we can see everybody. Yeah. So if you're willing to speak up and share. Yeah. Okay. Small action on a daily basis. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's what we wanted. Making a difference, Kathy. Yeah. So we can say, okay, so there's a gazillion ways to make a difference. So, I mean, Kathy, if you're willing to speak up, how do you personally like to make a difference in people's lives? Um, okay. Yeah. Remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking. So.
Hello.
Yeah, Marco, go ahead.
I hope my internet connection will be stable.
Yeah, you sound great.
I'm somewhere, you know, after 6 years working in an industry, I've become fed up with this industry. I want to change industries, and now I'm thinking about, you know, what kind of route should I take for a private venture? What kind of private venture can I do? Given that I have an architectural degree, but I haven't really done a lot of architecture in the past 6 years. So right now I'm thinking about, you know, what kind of problems can I solve? I know this is the important question to ask. So since I also studied graphic design for a couple of years, I'm thinking that I've saw many companies struggling with their visual identity and visuals in general. They focus too much on their service, and they somehow don't invest that much, and they don't have the idea of how much this is important. So I think that I may offer like this some kind of you know, design service and
Right.
this visual design solutions for companies like startups. That's something I don't.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, the word that comes to mind is branding. Helping companies like kind of come up with their branding and then, you know, design their logos and their, you know, their how they want to appear on their website. What part of that do you love doing, Marco?
Yeah, I believe I would be very. I don't have a lot of interior designs completed, but I think I will be a good combination of like as you mentioned, branding. I wanted to collect and offer something from the business design of the logo and business card all the way to, like, for example, designing their office space. And giving the holistic approach to their startup, to their brand.
That sounds great. Is that exciting for you?
Yes, very excited, but I don't know. You know, I'm still in the process of writing a business plan for that.
Uh-huh.
I you know, I need to study a lot of marketing nowadays, marketing, web design. I need to promote myself. I need to be out there. I need to be seen. So
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing would just say, like, are there any gaps in your knowledge in providing those different services? You have the architecture background, the design background. And in fact, the funny thing is, you can be your first client and design your own branding for your company.
Yeah, exactly. Well put, well said. Yeah, but the only thing that lack at the moment is that in the past couple, I mean, since my career has started, actually, I haven't done a lot of interior designs. I've done a lot of this graphic design work, but not interior design work. So maybe I thought of going to Upwork and trying to find some clients. If I don't find any clients, then I can, since I don't have a big portfolio, maybe invent something or find some tasks that are not awarded to me, and just try to solve that problems myself, and they could become my portfolio.
That's a great idea. You know, see if you have like maybe some friends who are starting a business, or go into your social media and maybe offer to do some pro bono work and just have the client cover the expenses, and then you can build a portfolio.
Mhm.
Yeah, build your own website. Yeah, and just kind of start from there. And the thing is, there are a lot of people starting their own businesses now. Many coaches are starting their own businesses, and many other types of businesses. So there is a need for your services.
Yes, I was thinking even of trying to find a niche inside interior design and branding, like only focus, for example, why my idea right now is whether to focus on gyms only, like to
Uh-huh.
become like specialize in only in gyms, for example, or target only dental offices, because dentists have a lot of money. So I'm thinking, it would be interesting to like niche down even more, like into
Right.
this, yeah, industries.
Yeah, you can certainly try it out and build a portfolio. And, if dental offices is too narrow, it can be medical practices, just
Yeah.
kind of the same arena, or, gyms and health spas. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to, just kind of test it out. Maybe talk to some places and see would they be willing to hire you to redo their offices or their facilities. Yeah, so sometimes you can try things out and then just see what works for you.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Shannon. That's been great
Yeah,
advice.
just
And Marco, we have Elle and Nikhil giving them their their advice in the chat, and they're saying that probably you can look at volunteering your time for nonprofits to start with. So that could be another way of getting started and getting back into rhythm of what you plan to do.
Wow, great advice. Thank you, Nikhil.
yeah. Sometimes it's an experimental process, trying different things. Just either like refreshing, going back and doing a refresher on your architecture skills, or I know with NYU has a number of different professional development classes and certificate programs. So there's a lot of different ways you can fill in your training and education or your skill gaps without having to spend a lot of money and get an entirely new degree. Kathy, have you?
Really? How much are the medium like investments I have to take in NYU to for
Um,
something course or?
I believe that my career coaching class is like $595 US. So that's compared to $30,000 a year for a master's degree, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, yes. I already have a master's degree assessed by the state of Alberta from Canada. So I think, although I don't live in the American peninsula, I'm in the American continent. I'm in Europe, but yeah, I think I could think about having being admitted to something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean one of the positive things that's come out of the pandemic is that a lot of classes are being given online or as hybrid classes, where you could either be in the classroom or come in on Zoom. So there's a lot of opportunities. Of course, sometimes the time frame is weird. I know when Abdul took my class, it went well into the night for him, even though it was a daytime class in New York. So yeah, so there are a lot of possibilities now. You're not limited to your local area. Yeah, good luck, Marco. Yeah, Kathy, I think you finally got unmuted.
For these devices.
No, you still, oh, okay. Yeah, if you want to put something in the chat, we can try and work that way if you'd like. Okay. Yeah, anybody else have a question? So yeah, we were talking about, looking at your values. Yeah, so like for Marco, solving problems is helping people with their decor, their branding, their corporate image. So that's how he can make solve problems for people. Okay, Elle, you said helping others. Yeah, would you like to talk about that a little bit? Yeah, or anybody else? Okay. You're still thinking it through. Okay, we can dialogue about it if you'd like. Okay, but I mean, that's the thing is getting more specific, helping others, solving problems, making a difference is up here. And there are so many different ways that you can do it. So then you can start to think, what do I enjoy doing? Are you a creative person? Are you a problem solver? Are you a scientist? And that's where we can go back to those Holland codes and see, which of those 6 areas appeals to you. Do you love doing research? A friend of mine actually was one of the things that she was doing for a while. She knew people who were writers and they needed people to do fact checking and research for them. So she was, a researcher for novelists for a while. So you can see how creative we can get with these. There are so many different careers that you can create. And that's one of the reasons I like this process as opposed to just taking a Myers-Briggs or a self-directed search. You can get a lot of great ideas there, but there are so many creative ways that you can come up with career ideas on your own that are creative, by putting, together what fields do I enjoy, what skills do I enjoy using, who do I want to help. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll say I am interested in helping a wide array. Right now I'm taking classes in sustainability. Okay, great. Holland Code is IAS, so investigative, artistic, social. Yeah, I is the research, you love research, but I'm hearing artistic and social. So it sounds like there might be a creative aspect to what you want to do, and social is working with people. So it might be that you're not sitting in a lab by yourself doing experiments, but you're out maybe doing more qualitative research as opposed to quantitative research, where you're working with people. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Actually, I knew somebody who did psychological research. So she was doing a lot of qualitative research and ended up going back to school because she decided she wanted to do clinical therapy, so that she actually wanted to do therapy with people as opposed to just doing psychological research. So, we talked about career development, and that's another thing. Sometimes you may discover something along the way and want to go in a different direction with your career than you had originally expected. Just to kind of like to share it yourself, I decided when I was 14 I wanted to be an actress. So I actually started taking acting classes when I was 14. I got a bachelor's degree in drama, and I did work as an actress, and along with many side jobs. But I reached a point where I said, I don't want to be doing this anymore. And interestingly, part of it was I started doing a lot of personal development work and spiritual work. And I said, for me, this does not have enough of a sense of purpose. I got what I needed out of this career, but there wasn't a sense of purpose there. What I ended up moving into next was book publishing. And my partner and I, my book publishing partner, who was a friend, we had different things that we were excited about, and there was some crossover. But for me, it was about publishing books that were going to make life better for people. So some of them were books on the arts and children's books, and we did a parenting book. But I felt like it was meaningful to me because I was putting out books that were going to help people to have a better life. And then about 7 years in, we kind of got a little burned out on that, so we were going to take a little break. And that's when I started coaching. So that I've kind of like built on that, and everything that I've done has actually come together. My acting training has helped me as being a teacher. I just want to let the echo go. Yeah, I still write and publish. So everything I've done has sort of piggybacked on my previous careers. So nothing is wasted. And I'm at a point now, we were talking about retirement, and I'm sort of in that bracket now. So I'm starting to think, what am I going to be doing, for that next stage of my life? And I have some ideas that I'm kind of developing right now. They're still in the early stages, but we will see where that goes. So you're never too young or too old to be developing your career and seeing where you really want to be going. And because we change as people. I'm not the same person I was when I was 14. So my life has evolved, and my careers have evolved along with my life. Okay.
Sharon, we have Rashmi saying our organization believes in helping the students by providing orientation programs on employability skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, Rashmi, did you have a question about that? Or the other question is, does that still have a sense of meaning and purpose for you? And that's the thing. There are all things you can add. A lot of times people who have a career or a business, add new products or services that respond to their audience's needs, but also that some of us, we love lifelong learning, and we get bored doing the same thing, so we add new skills and services, so that keeps us fresh as well. Okay, Nick, you were waiting for my memoir. You're going to be waiting for a while for that. But we shall see.
Yeah. So Sharon, when we speak about career and planning, then obviously the next thing comes to mind is career progression and transition. And how do these two differ if somebody really wants to differentiate and look at, and even the planning, does it differ? The planning differs from career progression and between career transition.
Yeah, I mean, there are differences. Everybody is different. There are some people who they get on a particular career track, and they love what they do, but they just need to keep developing their career. For other people, they get bored, and they may need to do a completely different career at different points of their life, similar to what I've done. So I think one of the things I talk about in the NYU class is that a lot of times people get scared about making a major career change, especially, as you move along in life and maybe have more responsibilities and you have 3 kids in college. So the thing is, you can always be planning for your next career. You don't have to make the leap in one step. This is an example. There's a book I mentioned in the class called Working Identity by Herminia Ibarra. And she gives an example of a gentleman who was a psychotherapist, and he was also a practicing Buddhist. And so over time, he was getting more into his Buddhist practice. And one year he took his summer off and went to a Buddhist monastery and worked there. And his specialty was also on grief counseling. And this particular monastery did a lot of work on grief counseling. So he worked with them. And over time, he decided that he wanted to leave his psychotherapy practice and become a Buddhist monk. That's a pretty radical change, but he did it step by step over many years, so that when he made that transition, he was ready. It wasn't just a sudden leap. So that's something that, you know, understanding that if you want to make a big change, you don't have to do it overnight, and you don't have to put yourself and your family at financial risk. That you can do it methodically, step by step, and you know, and plan so that when you make that leap, you're ready for it and you know what you're doing. Okay. Yeah.
And Sharon, what's the biggest obstacle that people face while transitioning or progression into another career or job search? You know, overall, sometimes there's kind of a mental block, or something to figure out. How should I go about searching for another job, or how should I progress into? So your advice would be somebody finding it difficult to transition into something new, or finding a new job altogether?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to take that in two pieces. In terms of transitioning in career, first of all, it's scary. You know, if you're comfortable in something and you know what you're doing and you have a steady income from it, and then you start getting this calling to do something else, or you're getting bored, it's scary to make a big change. That you maybe there's a risk that maybe you won't like the new thing. Maybe you need to invest a lot of money in re-educating or getting another degree. That maybe you'll have to make a lifestyle change, that you won't be making as much money, so you have to downsize your life a little bit. So that it's scary to make a career change, and it, you know, could be difficult on a financial level. You know, and of course, you know, that's a big scary thing for people. Am I going to be able to make a living doing this? So that's the big thing in terms of making a career change. In terms of the job search, that's particularly challenging for people who are introverts, because you really have to get out and network nowadays. I think I read a statistic recently that 85% of jobs are found through networking, not through like uploading resumes into the, you know, the black hole of the internet. I had one client who he was very, very comfortable on the computer, and he would go home and he would go through the job boards and he would upload tons and tons of resumes. And occasionally he would get contacted by a recruiter and, you know, maybe get a, you know, one little job interview. But he was putting in a lot of effort with very little results. So that is one of the challenges, that you have to get out and network. And that can be difficult if you're not a social person, or if you're nervous about it. The other challenge is also is if you don't want to let your current job know that you're job hunting, you have to kind of keep it under the radar a little bit. So that can be a little more challenging to reach out to people, but also, you know, not let it get back to your employer that you're looking for another job. So, you know, job hunting in itself is a job. It takes a lot of effort. You know, also, you know, with resumes now, you know, it used to be you would just have your chronological resume and just kind of put that out there. Nowadays, because the jobs are, a lot of times you have those online applicant tracking systems that are doing keyword searches on your resume. You may have to like tweak your resume for every single job that you apply to make sure that you have the important keywords that are in the job listing. So it takes a lot of effort to do job hunting. So, you know, what I usually recommend is wherever you are in your career, make sure you're getting out and networking, either within your company or within your industry. Or if you're looking to get into a new industry or a new field, start networking in that field. There are association meetings, you know, social media, LinkedIn is great. So finding ways that you can connect with people. And there are also, particularly with higher risk positions, there are professional resume writers. That's another career that has evolved that didn't exist many years ago, but because resumes are so important as marketing tools now, if you're in a high risk job, it doesn't hurt to pay a few $100s to a professional resume writer to get you a really great resume that's going to be a good marketing tool for you. So, yeah, to kind of sum up, yeah, changing careers can be scary. So do it just in a methodical way, like plan step by step, so that when you want to make that change, you're ready for it and you're not just leaping into something with no preparation. And also learning about how to do job hunting. And the bottom line there is connect with people. And if you do it all the time, then it's not like you're suddenly approaching people out of the blue, but you've already got warm connections that you can tap into and just let them know that you're looking, or ask them, if something comes up that you hear about, let them know. And interestingly, there's a thing called doing informational interviews. And I had a client years ago who was considering going into radio. And coincidentally, I mentioned I used to be in theater, and I was out taking a walk and I ran into somebody that I had worked with in theater. He happened to be working in radio at the time. So I connected my client with him to do an informational interview. And like the next day, a job possibility came up. It wasn't right for her, but he let her know about the job possibility. So those personal connections are everything. Okay, yeah, I'm just looking at the chat to see what's here. Yeah, so Hani says, career transition practically for me in changing my professional identity, especially being a freelancer. My current clients bothering me as why I'm making change. I feel so pressured by the market. That's the tricky thing. A lot of times, the people who you're working with currently don't want you to change. People get comfortable with you in a certain position. And the funny thing is also, if you're unhappy in your job and other people are also unhappy, they want to kind of keep you unhappy with them, which is kind of a funny thing. So sometimes you have to find people in the new situation that you're looking, the new career, who want to kind of say, hey, yeah, come on in and join us. And also sometimes it can be threatening to your family or your partner that you want to make a career. Does that mean all of a sudden we're not going to have enough money? So, there are a lot of, emotional things that come into making career, along with the practical things of getting your skills in place. Jody says, I'm a second year BSc forensic psychology student looking for placements. Do you have any advice for me on how to network and transition into my professional career from a student situation? Yeah, a couple of things, Jody. One, check out and see if there are alumni of your university who've been through your program. Maybe talk to your professors and see if they can connect you with alumni who are working in that field already. If there's a professional association, and most professions do have some kind of an association, see if you can get involved in that. I know a lot of them are not doing in-person meetings at this point yet, but they might be doing virtual meetings, or if you can become a student member of the association and connect with people maybe in your area or your particular focus in forensic psychology, and just see if you can connect with them as a mentor, or just to stay in touch with them and let them know that when you're ready to look for job hunting or internships. So to start making connections in your field as soon as you can, so that you have those warm connections when you're ready to go.
Sharon, Petra is saying, I think there is also a sense of waste when switching careers. Like, I've learned so much in this field, career path, and now I am throwing it out of the window.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Petra. Yeah, there's a thing called a sunk cost fallacy. I'll put that in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, a sunk cost fallacy. That I've already invested so much in this, is it a waste if I change it? Well, let me put it this way. Is it a waste of time to be happy? If you're doing something that maybe you've done it for a long time, but you're not happy or you're bored, is it a good investment in yourself to keep doing something that you don't want to do anymore? I mentioned, I mean, I got my degree in theater, and there came a point where I didn't want to do that anymore. And, you know, adult education is a huge thing right now. I mentioned NYU has their School of Professional Studies, and a lot of universities have, you know, adult education programs where you can retrain or go back to school. So, you know, we have very long lives right now. There's a book that I read recently. I think it's called like the 100-Year Life, and it talks about the different career paths between, you know, if your life expectancy is 50 years or 80 years or 100 years, you have a very different career path and a very different life path. So if you're going to have a career path, say, of 50 years, you may not want to keep doing the same thing. So there is nothing wrong with making a big change if that's going to make you happy. And interestingly, I hear that, you know, in longevity studies, when people are really engaged in life, it helps you stay healthy longer, stay engaged. And, you know, it's when you're engaged in life that you want to live longer, and that you know, I'm not a doctor, so I'm saying this with, you know, with a, you know, footnote, but a lot of times when you are happy and engaged in life, it also helps your health. So, so you know, there's no reason to continue doing something that you hate. Now, if there's a financial or a practical reason to it, you may want to continue doing it for a while. You may also see, how can I take my transferable skills and move it into something that would be more appealing to me? Or start, you know, hold on to your day job, as we say, and start training for something. And, you know, again, you don't have to change overnight, but make sure that, you know, that we talk about like the trapeze thing. There comes a point where, like, when you're on a trapeze, where in order to get to the catcher on the other side, you have to let go at some point of the trapeze, and you're in midair. So you want to prepare so that once you're in midair, that you've sort of got your catcher set up on the other side, that you know that, you know, once you're ready to make that transition, that you've got your credentials in place, that you're ready for it, so that you're not risking your own, you know, financial or well-being, or your family's. So, like, really planning for those transitions.
Sharon,
Yes.
Shuhui, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. As a graduate student, could you please suggest ways of effective networking during the pandemic? Right. So, you know, I think that's a very apt question with what we have all gone through in past couple of years. And one thing that's really suffered is social skills sometimes, and even opportunity to network with others.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is a lot of networking has gone online right now. So that's what I would suggest. I mean, LinkedIn is a great resource. So that's what I would say is, like, look through your, you know, look at your connections on LinkedIn and see if you can connect with people, and just set up sort of like coffee meetings, but do Zoom meetings instead of in person. And the advantage of that also is that you're not limited to only people in your local area. You can network with people from anywhere. There are also professional groups on LinkedIn, so you can get into different groups and meet people that way and participate in conversations. So just do it virtually, you know, and until you can actually get back. If there's a professional association that you're not aware of, you know, just you know, join the association, start interacting with people that way, so that when they do start having in-person meetings again, you'll already know some of the people. So again, just be creative, you know, be resourceful, and do what you can.
Sharon, as we get closer to the end of our session, we spoke a lot about careers and jobs, and you know, how to transition, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to you know, start their own business or become an entrepreneur, and or transition out of full-time job into doing something of their own. Is there a different process for them to plan that transition into from job to a business? What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I think the exploration process can be the same. Especially as an entrepreneur, it's a lot of work. You know, it's a responsibility. You know, you're falling back on your own resources. You're not going to have a steady paycheck. So the first thing is like figure out what you love doing. You know, whether it's a product or a service. And then, you know, learn about being an entrepreneur. There's a website, entrepreneur.com, that's connected with Entrepreneur Magazine. In the US, we have the Small Business Association, and you can find a mentor. There's a part called SCORE, SCORE. So find mentors. So learn about what does it take. Again, do informational interviews with other people who are doing what you're doing, who maybe non-competitive. You don't want to, you know, talk to somebody who is going to be a competitor, but you can talk to somebody in a different area. You know, somebody who's an entrepreneur, but maybe who's not going to be directly competitive with you. And just understand, what do you need to do, you know, financially? What do you need to do to run the business, to get clients? So, and there are courses that you can take. There are books you can read. You know, internet resources. So learn what you're doing, and again, stay in your day job, and maybe start your business on the side and start building clientele before you quit your day job. Or some people like to have a part-time job and then have their own company on the side, so that you have a steady paycheck from your company and then your own entrepreneurial business. And if that takes off, fantastic, then you can quit your day job as well. But a lot of people also they have a full-time job and then they do something on the side. They have maybe they do something creative, and they have an Etsy store where they sell their goods, or, you know, teach yoga or something like that. Yeah, so a lot of people are starting business, and there are a lot of resources for it as well. It's very interesting because I started coaching about 24 years ago, when it was a very brand new professional and there were not a lot of resources. Nowadays, most of the people who want to link with me on LinkedIn are people who are providing support services for coaches. So there's a lot of support services for entrepreneurs out there as well. And if you need a website and your office design, you can talk to Marco. So, you know, he can help you with that. I'm not sure if he's still here, but yeah, so there's a lot of resources out there and a lot of support. You know, so, you know, don't worry, don't be afraid to reach out and get the help that you need. Another thing also, another concept also is like to go with your strengths. So I happen to be good with numbers, so I can do my own bookkeeping. I do have an accountant, but if that's not something you're good at, hire a bookkeeper. Or if you're not good at web design, hire a web designer. You know, don't you know, waste your time and energy doing things that are difficult for you, when you could be using your time to make money. You know, to work with you and do the things that you're good at and that you enjoy doing. So that's sort of my summary on being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a good one, Sharon. And I think what happens, the point you made at the end, is lots of people, when they get into business, because of short of resources, financially or otherwise, people tend to try to do everything by themselves. And you know, let's admit that not everybody is good at doing everything, right? And that's one of the challenges that I guess most of the people who transition into from an employment job into business that they face. That's the biggest obstacle that they usually face, is finding right resources.
I'm sorry, finding
right resources for you know, resources or help, because most time what they try to do is try to do everything by themselves. And I got the point which you made a great point, that try to not try to do everything that in your business, try to outsource it, and instead invest that time and energy into doing what you really want to do and create your business.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of resources out there. And I know when you're first starting, sometimes it's scary to spend money to hire somebody else to do something. But in the long run, it's actually more beneficial. There's also a lot of resources out there. When we started our publishing company, I had a friend who was also starting out as a lawyer, and she became our lawyer, and she refused to take any money from us. So she worked for us pro bono. If you don't have the money to spend on a web designer, go to a design school and find a web design student who's looking to create a portfolio. I've had that also. When I was in publishing, we needed one of my colleagues needed somebody to design book covers for her. So she found a student who was looking for a portfolio piece. So there's a lot of ways to get resources. Again, LinkedIn is also always great. You can always search on the internet. If you're involved in entrepreneurial groups, you can ask your colleagues, I'm looking for a web designer. Who would you recommend? I need a bookkeeper or an accountant. Who would you recommend? Yeah, there's tons of resources out there. I just want to say, Resmi says, I think you need to leave the employee mindset, first of all, and train yourself to own the responsibility of your own venture. This is a major transition. Absolutely. Yeah. Just all of a sudden, you're responsible. You don't have somebody creating a schedule for you, assigning you work to do. It's all on you. So that mindset is a big change. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Resmi.
Thank you, Sharon, for this. I just wanted to, as we try to wrap up, if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Sharon before we go.
Okay. I wanted to point out also there's some really good comments in the chat. If you open the chat screen, you'll see that, like, on the bottom corner, 3 little dots. If you click on that, you can save the chat. There's some really good suggestions in there. Okay. And I believe Abdul is going to give you my contact information. So if any other questions come up, you are welcome to contact me.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share with everyone your contact details. And before we go, so here we are, Sharon Good, Good Life Coaching. You can reach out to her at Sharon at goodlifecoaching.com, or visit her website, www.goodlifecoaching.com. And then you can also can register for the upcoming course that at New York University, the same course that me and Nikhil did a month ago or so. It is the next session is going to start on 26th of February, 2 sessions, and March 12th, right? It's 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. EST, that's Eastern Standard Time. So that because it is New York based, all timings are in EST.
Yeah.
And
also,
yeah, sure.
in the career coaching class, I mean, it was originally for life coaches who want to do career coaching. But in the class, I actually teach the process that we talked about, where you look at your values and your skills and industries and all. You learn that process in the class, and you apply it to yourself for homework. So you would actually go through the process. And we also talk a lot about career development. So if you're a coach and you're looking to do career coaching, there's a lot of good skills in there. But even for yourself, if you're looking to change or develop your own career, you might get some really good information to help you personally.
No, definitely, yes, Sharon, and that's exactly what I mentioned at the beginning. That I went there, I attended this course to to understand and get some learning on career coaching. But when I finished the course itself, not only I understood how to help people in their career planning, but it has really helped me to how to plan my own career. So it's a double advantage that you get with this course. And if you need to reach out to me for or you need the presentation or link to the video recording, you can write to me at abdul.khalik@leadwithak.com, and I'll share with you the details of there were a couple of slides that we used and the recording of the session. Okay, so Joy is asking for the link. I will certainly do that. Give me a second.
Yeah, I put in the link to my classes page, and that has links to both of the coaching class and the entrepreneurial skills class. Yeah, because they're long links. So, and if you search on the NYU website, you have to kind of like dig through several layers. So if you go to my classes page, there are direct links there as well.
I think any other question we haven't missed any of the questions, right? So great. Thank you so much, Sharon. Really appreciate you taking out the time from your busy schedule and sharing all the knowledge and wisdom with us. That's the main thing, because what we need to do is to continue our journey of learning. No matter what stage of life we are, we should aim to learn something new. And I have immensely, and Nick, I second you definitely, that the course that we attended together, and we were both together in Sharon's class, the learning that we got from that course was immense. And I can't, recommend it enough. So Sharon, thanks a lot. Really appreciate you taking the time. And, anybody else who were here and who left already, thank you for being here and sharing and making it is very interactive and a learning experience for all of us. So thank you so much. Looking forward to having you all maybe sometime next month when we arrange another webinar on another topic. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abdul and Sharon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no.
Abdul, why don't you just stop the recording so you and I and Nick can just stay on for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Nick, good to see you again.
Yeah, great seeing you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Abdul, it was so